This is why it's not a good idea to buy a censored game. If you didn't know, Resident Evil 4 VR was censored. And now all he has to say is,
It's the year 2022 and some of this stuff doesn't age well.
and at first you will probably say something like, well, it's not a big deal, they just cut some stuff from the game. They just changed some dialogue. It's not like they changed the gameplay or the main mission. Well, first of all, let me ask you two questions. Why waste money to do it? All you do is cut stuff, use censorship. So you waste the budget for the game to give the players less. And you're okay with that? You even pay for that? Also, I agree, it may not be a big thing now, but because they are encouraged and you pay money, they will think it's a good idea to do even more. So they may change a text that you didn't even know existed, but next time they may censorship your waifu, they may change something to the mission because they think it's offensive for a man to save a woman, or I don't know, they will do exactly what YouTube does. They will try their best to make everything boring. No bad words, no edgy stuff, no icky stuff, no violence, no flirting, no fun. And you may say something like I said sometimes, it's not a big deal, I will play other games. Or I will play the older version. Well, sometimes they end up deleting the original, but even if you still have the original, why should we let them censorship whatever they want? It's our games. They make the games for us. They don't make the games for themselves. So I think if they don't understand with a fuck you, they should at least understand when you stop buying their games. So the executive producer says that the content didn't fit with the Resident Evil franchise these days. So this is why the story of the Resident Evil was so boring. I mean, sure, Resident Evil 2 remake was fun to play, but the story was boring as fuck, almost non-existent. If the female characters like Claire and Ada weren't so sexy, I think it was zero reasons to watch the cutscenes. I'm not saying that it had to be something perverted, but let's be real, it's not like they tried to make an interesting story. And this kind of stuff is 100% what happens when you care more about censorship instead of making the game entertaining. Anyway, let's see what's the stuff that didn't age well. Leon saying to Ingrid that somehow I thought you'd be a little older. So that's it. This was cut from the game. Because we all know in a game when you shoot zombies, people die, there's a lot of violence, monsters. The biggest issue is that a man is telling a woman that he thought she was a little older. Next, it's another dialogue with Ingrid. She says, Leon, it's been 6 hours since our last transmission. I was starting to get worried. And Leon says, don't you mean lonely? And in the new version, this was deleted, of course. I mean, he doesn't say the don't you mean lonely part. Because again, flirting with a woman is very problematic for 2022. There must be no flirting with women. Next, censorship. Luis says, small world, huh? Well, I see that the president's equipped his daughter with ballistics too. Then Ashley says, how rude! And I don't believe there's any relevance with my figure and my standing. Who are you? And Louis again, oh, excuse me, your highness. Perhaps the young lady might want to introduce herself first before asking someone his name. And the censorship version is small world, huh? That's it. Luis doesn't say the part with the president equipping his daughter with the ballistics. And because of that, Ashley only says, who are you? And for some reason, they kept the last part. And apparently, instead of, oh, excuse me, he says, ho ho, excuse me. I don't know why, but whatever. It's not like the people who are pro-censorship have big brains. So I'm not expecting much from them. They have special needs. The next dialogue says, Ashley, so after you take me back to my place, how about we do some overtime? Leon, huh? Sorry? Ashley, somehow I know you'd say that, but it doesn't hurt to ask, you know? So who was that woman anyway? Leon, why do you ask? Ashley, come on, tell me. Leon. She's like a part of me I can't let go. Let's leave it at that. So of course in the censored version, because we cannot have flirting, Ashley doesn't say the part with the overtime, and of course they also cut the rest of the dialogues that had connection to this part. And the scene that was completely removed, Leon says, I've rescued this subject. We are returning home. Ingrid, you did it, Leon? Leon, thanks. You're kind of cute without those glasses. Give me your number when I get back. Ingrid, may I remind you that you're still on duty? Leon, story of my life. You may think that the executive producer felt bad for Leon, that he didn't get a date with Ingrid. So maybe it was for the best that nobody knew about it. Well, of course this didn't happen. The idiot executive producer thought that this was a good idea to cut all the flirting from the game. Because of course he did, because he's a useless cunt. I think he cannot justify his salary, so he does retarded stuff like this so that people will think that he did something. And his censorship is very important because a lot of people will never buy this game because of this censorship, even if it's the other way around. Next, the achievement named Secure the Ballistics was renamed to Secure Ashley. There's also a body of a woman killed brutally, and I expected them to change it with a man or delete it from the game, but they only changed the text. And I don't think they did that because they're okay with showing this. I just think it was more complicated to change a prop from the game instead of just the text. So to make you understand, they were lazy because they don't really care. It was easy to change some text or cut a cutscene, but of course they will not want to do even more because most of them probably don't even know how to turn on the computer. Anyway, the dialogue that Leon says is, yes, there's no sex discrimination here. And the new text is, I guess no one's safe here. Bravo, Mr. Executive Producer. You are more useless than a used toilet paper. You fucking idiot. So all he did, he banned from a game sexual harassment, sarcastic expressions, sexist conversations, or expressions that may be linked indirectly to them. So not only that the story didn't have a lot of story, they also cut most of the stuff that gave the game personality. Leon flirting with the girls was the only interesting thing in the story, because it was silly, maybe a little cringe, and most of the time it was funny. But yeah, I really hate people who think they know better, who think that everybody should accept his way of thinking, because nobody has the right to think or do something else. If these idiots really cared about the consumer, about the gamer, then they would ask if people want this, if the consumer is okay with this, if this makes the game better. But no, they don't care. They just use your money and wasting it on modifying the game the way that nobody wanted to be modified, by cutting and censorship. And then they come and say, you need to give us more money because games these days are very expensive. Do you know how many diversity officers we need to overpay every day? How else do you want us to censorship your game or cut stuff from it? For real now. We should start complaining more. We should start saying fuck you more. We should stop buying their games. How the fuck did we end up paying more for something that gives us less? We pay more for censorship, for cutting stuff from the game, for very boring content. And even if you don't buy these games, you should at least complain. Because we cannot have good remakes, good remasters, good sequels, or a new game that has an interesting story and good gameplay if we don't start complaining, if we don't start forcing them to stop with the censorship. Because we don't pay for censorship, we pay for entertainment. And of course, if they don't listen and they don't care, and they think the idiots from Twitter are more important than the consumer, then fine, whatever. I don't need your Resident Evil 4 remake or whatever. I'm very curious how bad Resident Evil 4 remake will be. I don't care for it because I'm pretty sure they will not give Ashley a cute costume or the option to unlock a cute costume, a sexy costume, I'm pretty sure they will not add flirting, sarcasm, or anything interesting. Their only chance to sell the game will be the gameplay. And let's be real, when they concentrate all their resources on censorship and cutting, I don't think they will care very much about the gameplay. So yeah, we are in the year 2022, but the executive producer from Resident Evil 4 VR is mentally stuck to the past. You are not allowed to make sarcasm, you are not allowed to flirt, you are not allowed to make fun, and in the future you will probably never see a sexy woman or violence. At least not in his games. What a pathetic loser.